Dave Confused. I'm Dave, still confused as always. Just want to start this video off by saying just a big thank you to everybody that watched my other video. It was definitely a very different video that I put up, kind of being very personal about what I was going through, what I'm still going through. But it was very therapeutic and it made me feel awesome, the amount of love that was given to me from you guys on YouTube and Facebook and everybody that watches my videos. If I've known you before or I know you now, or if you're just a fan, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to continue making videos for you guys. So, to the creepy stuff, right? Cue dark music, please. Have you ever had the situation where you have a family member pass and there's something that kind of says, you know, kind of in your heart and your head that they're not necessarily gone yet, and you feel it, like you feel it within yourself that they're not gone yet? Yeah, I had a couple of situations like that, and I would like to tell these stories. I'm gonna start when I was I'll start with the very first one, and I don't think I've ever told someone this story. Yeah, it's been, I don't even know if my wife knows this story, but it's something that I do think about still, and I didn't realize exactly what it was until I was older than what I was in the story. So I believe I was about 4 or 5 when my grandfather on my dad's side passed away. And he lives in Wisconsin in the United States, and he lived with my grandmother and my 2 aunts at the time. They all lived in one house, and I always remember going there and having such a good time there, and loving visiting them, because they were the coolest family. Like, everybody was just so awesome and nice. But I do remember when my grandfather got sick, and I was very, very young, and I didn't necessarily know exactly what it meant. I remember my dad being very, very upset about it, but trying to keep on a very strong face. And I remember my family talking about all these amazing stories of how an amazing guy my grandfather was. Just salt of the earth type guy, just an amazing, amazing person. And the memories I do have of him are all good and fond and amazing memories. I remember he passed, and we were discussing, the adults were discussing funeral arrangements and the wake and everything. And like I said, I was like 4 or 5, like I wasn't involved in the conversation. I was kind of off in my own little world. And we were at my grandmother and grandfather's house, and they had, like, their bedroom was at the end of this hall, and there was basically like one rule of the house, and it was, don't go in your grandmother's bedroom. I think it was the rule because she had a cat that was very territorial about the bedroom, and she didn't want anybody to get scratched or anything, right? So, you know, they had like a Nintendo and a Sega and everything in their living room, and for us to play, and movies and all the munchies you can think of, like, in the kitchen. So, you know, there was never any reason to go into that room. But I think it was the cat that she wanted everyone to stay out. I remember kind of just thinking, like, what's in the room? Like, what's so special about this room? You know what I mean? There was that part of me that was like, what is going on? Like, I want to see what's in that room. Like, you know? And so I took it upon myself to go check out the room. And I remember I was wearing like a dress shirt and a tie and suspenders, because I was dressed nicely, because we had stuff, you know, going on for my grandfather. And I opened the door, and it was just a regular room. It was just a bedroom. A lot of photos on the wall, framed, big mirror, and everything. And I walked in, I walked into the room and I felt a hand on my chest, just like a hand on my chest to kind of be like, no, 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 don't do that. You know your grandmother doesn't like that. And it was gentle, it didn't hurt. It was just it was a hand, a big hand. And it kind of just put me in the frame of mind where it's kind of like, okay, I won't go in there. Like, I wasn't upset about it. I wasn't scared. I wasn't surprised. It was just a hand. And it kind of be like, okay, you know, you're not supposed to be in there. And I just turned and walked out. And I'll never forget the feeling of it. I'll never forget the warmth of it on my chest, the feeling how big it was. You know, like I was a little kid, and that's, you know, adults do that, like kind of like, no, don't go in there, come on, right? And that's what happened. And I do think it was my grandfather saying, no, don't go in there. You know your grandma doesn't like you going in there. Your grandma doesn't want you going in there. And I always remembered it. I always thought about it. I always kind of had that feeling that like that happened. And it wasn't till like later. I think I was like at least 10 or 11, maybe older. I don't know. Where I figured out what that was. That I kind of remembered, like, oh my God, that was somebody. Somebody didn't want me to go in the room. They just, you know, touched my chest and was like, hey, don't do that. As an adult does to a kid. Like, hey, come on. Like, my son gets into everything, and I'm just kind of, hey, buddy, come on. And I kind of, you know, tap his shoulder and kind of move him in the direction of the opposite of what he wants to play with, that he's not supposed to. And I'm kind of like, come on, just go this way. And so that was one thing I remember that, you know, I definitely wanted to talk about because it was so crazy. So the other story, second story, I mean, I guess I could have made like 2 videos or whatever, but I figured, you know, they're both on my mind. I'll just make one video. Because they're similar. They're similar in nature, right? When I was 16, I had a family dog die. Now, we had this dog was like 17 when she died, 16 or 17. Like, I was like 1 when we got this dog. And I don't remember a time not having this dog. Her name was Peaches. Peaches. She was this little poodle, like a not like a super small poodle, but like a medium sized poodle, not a standard, but a medium. And she had like really blonde hair and brown eyes, and she was such an awesome dog. And we had her for like 16 years. And when she got older, at the time my grandparents lived with us, and so they had the downstairs apartment and we had the upstairs apartment. And my grandmother used to babysit me and my sister all the time. And we used to, every time we would go downstairs, Peaches would hear you coming down the stairs, and she would meet you at the end of the stairs. And as you walked by, or at least I did, as I walked by, I would always put my hand down to graze her fur, just to kind of give her like a swipe, like, hey, how you doing, Peach? You know what I mean? Like a little like pet from like shoulder to hip, like just on like a long little nice pet. And then she would just kind of follow you and ask for more pets, and you know, they're just things that dogs do. And that went on for forever. And then when she was 16, she passed. And she passed away in my mom's arms. And she had gotten dog groomed beforehand. And she was so old, I think she was just sore from like the constant movements. And my mom was holding her and kind of saying to herself like, oh man, she's getting up there, and you know, I hope things are okay, and I hope she's okay. And then she just passed away in my mom's arms right there. And it was such a beautiful way to go, like being held by someone you love. Like, that's the dream, that's the way to go if you're gonna go. And So we buried her, and like I think this was like 17 years ago, by the way. We buried her, and we said some good memories about her, and like but ever since that day, every time I went downstairs to visit my grandmother, I would walk by the end of the stairs, and I would put my hand down, and my hand, like she was gonna be there. Like I put my hand there to pet her, as if it was like second nature now. Like I didn't think about it, and I felt her on my hand every time I did it. Like she was there, and I felt her fur, her curly fur, on my hand every time, and it was like it didn't frighten me. It didn't even surprise me. It was just like, yeah, she's there. Yeah, I know. This is where she wants to be. She stayed downstairs with my grandmother and grandfather on my mom's side, and my grandfather used to, she used to sleep at the bottom of their bed every night, and my grandfather used to say all the time, he still felt her there during the night. He felt this little warm body curled up at the bottom of his bed, where she loved to sleep. She could have slept anywhere, but she chose to sleep there at that exact spot. And every night he felt her there. She was there. I think when you love somebody and their family, and I'm not even saying like blood related, like you can have family that's family. When you love somebody, they don't always leave you. Like death isn't necessarily the end of that relationship. And I truly, truly believe that from these two experiences and others that I've had that I will talk about in later videos. But yeah, I do believe that sometimes they want to be around a little while longer. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, here we are at the end of the video. Thank you so much for checking out my video and listening to me babble on about random things. I appreciate it. Yeah, I bid you adieu. Please like and subscribe. And at least our dogs aren't werewolves. What?